Nope.
How you doing this evening, Big Ed? Can you hear us, Ed?
Yes.
How you doing this evening, partner?
I'm fine. How's everybody doing?
Good, good, good. We also got the professor in the building.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Praise the Lord. Let's get it.
And we have special guests in the building this evening. We got G in the building for the first time. We've been looking to try to get on the program in a year. We have to be up front, full disclosure. G is my baby girl that I've been talking about all year. So welcome my biggest and best achievement, G, to the show. What's going on, G?
Hi, everybody. All right.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, this evening, we'll discuss our NBA Finals preview, week 3 of the NFL, college football update, our combat sports update, post takes, plus other topics that caught our attention, and of course, our final post of the evening. We appreciate you tuning in, so sit back, relax, and enjoy Post on the Positional Talk Show channel. All right, everybody. We're going to kick it off with the NBA news. We all said gentlemen sweep last week with the Lakers, and
we sure did. Oh, you heard it here first.
3 series down, 3 gentlemen sweeps. Really, J3, that's how you feel?
Yes, that's exactly how I'm feeling.
What's going on?
Yes. I wanted Boston to make a difference. I really did. And then Denver, after they beat the Clippers, then they're gonna lose to the Lakers. Really? Again.
Hey, the Lakers are the Clippers. Little brother got showed what's going on, and big brother did what they were supposed to do.
You mean running people up? I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Oops, my bad.
With the occasional flop by LeBron.
Y'all really gonna go on LeBron?
I didn't mention no names. I didn't mention no names at all.
If it works.
You gonna let them just go in on LeBron like that, Ed?
Well, I'm gonna get back to that. But what has me confused right now, I'm kind of thinking about J3 right now. J3's in my head right now.
Yeah.
Ed,
And the
we can
reason-
barely hear you, brother.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Barely. He's coming in real faint.
What about now?
It's a little better.
Can you turn your volume up a little bit
It's up.
on your computer?
I'll tell you what, I'll come back to me.
Okay. So we had LeBron do his thing. He finished it up with the triple-double, 38, 16, and 10 in game 3. And there was not going to be a game 6 in that series. So moving forward, the Miami Heat took out the Boston Celtics in 6. Now, I think most of us said that they would go 7. But did y'all believe the number 5 seed Heat would actually make it to the NBA Finals?
Nope. Sure didn't.
Not only did they make it to the Finals, I think they were really, really, really dominant. Even though they lost 2 games, once they figured out and start playing that zone up against the Celtics, they threw a hitch into their offense and they never recovered. I think the Celtics need an emotional boost person for that team, because it seems like all their superstars or stars are all laid back. What do y'all think?
Hey, good. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I can hear you.
Am I a lot better?
You're better.
An improvement.
Okay. Well, so this is what I was saying as far as the Celtics concerned. J3 brought up the point, and it was in my head. And you just mentioned what you just mentioned, Big Reg. I don't think necessarily it's a player that the Celtics need, but let's start examining the the quality of coach of Brad Stevens, because they have you can argue that they have at least I think more talent than Miami. They definitely probably have more top starting 5 players as far as better than Miami. But Brad Stevens, something always happens in the playoffs where they just fizzle out.
Nothing from my name.
We just want to say,
Yeah.
He stopped talking.
No, he's still talking because I'm looking at him right here.
It's a delay.
Oh.
I can hear him.
Well, all I can tell you is, I mean, Boston gave it all that they could. To your point, Ed, to be honest with you, yeah, they may need a motivational individual to pump them up, but they all got to be clicking on one cylinder.
But isn't the coach
Yeah, can you hear
responsible?
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. And then they also need to give the ball more to Kemba Walker. He needs to produce more. I mean, I know he's a floor general, but he needs to step up. They needed his points. And then when they got Hayward back, he should have made a bigger effect. Do you agree?
Gordon Hayward seemed like he was going to be. I think he helped a little bit, but in the long run, I think it still wasn't enough to get past the physical, emotional push that Miami Heat was doing through that series. So again, I just think that they're missing something, and it's not a score. To
To
me,
Ed's point, it could be the coach.
I don't
And
think
we'll
it's the
go
coach.
into another point that, later this afternoon, other people seem to be losing their jobs over not getting teams over the hump. So
okay. So Ed thinks it's the Golden Boy coach that's causing the issue. You got anything to add, Professor?
At this time, no, I don't. Not on that series.
Okay.
he's over it.
Yeah.
Well, I know he's got, somebody that's been killing him for all weekend about the Lakers winning and the Clippers not winning. So
Yeah, I wonder if he out there right now. I don't see him popping up yet. But I'm so sick and tired of hearing your mouth sense. LBJ apologist.
before we move on off of the NBA, let's just do a quick preview of the finals. So you've got the Lakers against Miami. You've got LeBron going against the organization who a lot agree taught LeBron how to be a champion. Didn't leave on a great note because if you remember, Pat Riley was really, really upset about LeBron choosing. So you got
That's why. Come
the
on.
Heat against the Lakers, LeBron going back against Riley. How do y'all see the finals turning up?
Well, I think the finals is going to be another gentleman's sweep in favor of the Lakers. I think that, LeBron got asked that very question today, like going back against Riley, Spoelstra and things, is that added motivation? LeBron played it down. He was like, no, there's no added motivation. It's hard enough to get to the finals, but it's business as usual for us. So basically, he's telling the world right now that there might be a little bit of extra motivation, but I'm not going to tell you that it's extra motivation. But it's business as usual. They're coming to win another championship. This is a legacy finals for LeBron. He knows that he needs it more than anything. They're going to leave anything to chance.
J3, what you got for us?
Unfortunately, I think it's just going to be a clean sweep. I don't think it's going to be a gentleman. I mean, if you look at the players and you look at the positions that these players are playing in, I really don't see Miami matching up with the Lakers, unfortunately. again, I would have liked to seen Boston go there. However, they're not there, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the Lakers.
Lakers in 4.
Yeah, yeah.
What you think, G?
I'm gonna go Lakers in 6.
Oh.
Ooh.
I think it must run in the family.
That's what you think.
I like Lakers in 6. I think Miami and Coach Spoelstra will do enough to figure out a way to win 2 games, but they're not going to win the series.
Look, Ed said no.
What do you think? What do you think?
Go ahead, Ed. What's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Yes, there is no way on God's beautiful green earth that LeBron James is going to lose to Miami. Now, it might be a little adjustment period, but the adjustment period will be all of 1 game. The Lakers will win this series in 5. I want to say, I wanted to say 4, a sweep, but I'm not going to disrespect Miami like that. Miami's proven worthy. They should be in the NBA Finals, but I see the Lakers winning this in 5.
All right. So the post crew all have the Lakers winning the championship between 4 and 6 games. We hear you, Chris. We're not disrespecting Jimmy Buckets, but we don't think the Heat are quite ready for prime time. Getting to the NBA Finals is a huge accomplishment for that team. I agree with you that they may win a championship. Not 2, not 3. They may win 1 championship.
I see what you did there, Chris. I see.
Before we get off the NBA, we got to bring up what happened late last night with the LA Clippers deciding, that they were going to part ways, which is a nice way of saying they fired Doc Rivers after the loss. Real quick, who do you think should be the next head coach for the Clippers? And do you think Doc Rivers should take a year off and go back to broadcasting, which he was doing great before he went back into coaching? Or should he take one of these other positions out?
Man, if I was Doc, I'd go ahead and give me a daggone commentator job and sit my butt down somewhere. That's what I would do.
What about you, Ed?
Yeah, I was never a big Doc fan anyway. I know he barely won that title in Boston, and that's where he got, gained his fame. But if you look at that team and if you look at that season when he won the championship, I mean, that was probably the last hurrah or two for KG, Kevin Garnett. Paul Pierce was at the top of his game, if he ever had a top of his game. Rondo was the young pup, full of energy, playing defense, orchestrating the team. You had sharpshooter Ray Allen again at the top of his game. I just never, and it still took him 7 games to win that championship. I just don't. I'm not a big Doc fan. Never have been. I agree with J3. He's a great commentator. I used to enjoy watching him call games. But he's at an age now where you're traveling. It's just it's no point.
Right.
But I did think that he actually stayed a little too long as far as being in LA with the Clippers. I personally would have, probably let him go 2 seasons ago. When Chris Paul, actually when they jettisoned Chris Paul out of LA, I think that should have been Doc's time to leave too.
Gotcha. Professor, what's your thoughts, partner?
Well, apologies if I step on your toes, Ed, because they can hear you. I can't hear you at all. But I believe that in this certain scenario, I think, the Clippers did what they thought that they needed to do. I think more of the onus should go on the GM in this situation. As far as Doc going back and being an analyst or anything like that, I really think that we could use him in a city called DC, where his talents would be greatly used here. Also, can't sleep on the fact that the Pelicans could use a coach of his pedigree as well down there with those young teams. If you remember, Doc does really well with young and up and coming pups. And I think if he had Zion and those other boys down there, that he could really put together a nice competitive team. I mean, let's not forget with what they have now, they almost made the playoffs. So you put a coach like Doc there, then he can really maximize the talent that he has from those individuals. Plus, you know they're going to be bringing in some new and younger players. And who knows, maybe they'll bring in a KG veteran in free agency to be able to make things come together. You know, Doc likes at least one or two solid veterans that he can put on his teams, whether they coming off the bench or whatever. But that leadership, I think, would really suffice for any team that he decides to go to. It's unfortunate, but they had to have a scapegoat there in LA.
Just to your point, though, you don't think Alvin Gentry is a good coach down there?
Not a championship coach.
New Orleans?
Yeah, not a championship coach. Yeah, there's a difference. Championship coach.
Wow. Okay, I hear you.
And Professor J, I apologize. Lawrence Frank, the GM of the Clippers, well, the de facto GM of the Clippers, I still think Doc was pulling most of the strings behind the scenes. He has to go too. You're right.
Yeah, Lawrence Frank is interesting. Don't forget, he was on the bench with Doc, and supposedly they were going back and forth or something, and he ended up moving to the front office and ended up being able to fire Doc. So that was real interesting. I think the best spot for Doc, if he's willing to work with young players, would be New Orleans. I like that, Professor J. But it wouldn't be bad for Doc if he wanted to take a year off and relax. Or heck, Doc been making $8 to $10 million for the last 4 or 5 years with the Clippers. Doc can go ahead back into the studio, make $3 to $5 million, and just enjoy life.
I'm just afraid that if he does that, we're going to lose a really good coach out of the NBA.
I feel you.
A black coach at that.
Excellent point. Now, nobody said who they think should be the next head coach of the Clippers. I heard Tyronn Lue is the front runner for the team. We're running a little late on this segment, so to be determined. We'll see what happens.
It don't matter because they about to dismantle that team.
Yep.
Gotcha. Let's move on to the NFL. Biggest game of the week. Monday night.
Womp, womp, womp.
Ended up being a huge disappointment.
Oh, man.
Oh, you called it.
I asked you 3 days ago, is this game really going to be that interesting?
Wow, you did. You did.
Yeah, and Gianna was the only one who came to my defense when I wanted to bench Lamar Jackson. Thanks, Gianna. I'm not gonna call no names out, but Gianna, you're the only one who came. I said, not today. I put him on the bench because I saw it coming. Look, Tennessee, when Baltimore, and I'm being unbiased. Again, everybody knows I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I will put that out there. But again, I'm just looking at it from the X's and O's. And when Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans came to Baltimore in the playoffs, Mike Vrabel and his staff came up with a game plan, and they effectively showed the rest of the NFL how to defeat or limit Lamar Jackson. Now, every team can't execute because every team doesn't have the players to be able to do that. Kansas City does. And they can do it even more so because they not only have the players that are comparable to Baltimore, but I would argue, or most people would argue, they actually have a more talented roster than Baltimore. I know that might be blasphemy in this part of town, but again, they actually might have a better roster than Baltimore. So what happened last?
Right, they won the Super Bowl.
So what happened? Right. Well, but I mean, Baltimore did worse. They was 14-2. They actually had the best record in the NFL last year, not Kansas City. But again, the blueprint, the blueprint's out there. I still think Baltimore will have a great season, except when they have to play the elite NFL teams, which are to be determined. We already know Kansas City's great. So that result last night should not have come to any surprise. But yeah.
Well, let's not even really blame Lamar Jackson for this loss because the defense was terrible. They was getting torched.
That offensive line was horrible.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna get to that next, but just talking about the defense, I mean, again, Lamar can't score points, but they give up more points than they actually score. They never gonna win that way.
Well,
Look,
I mean, the Ravens, to Ed's point, I believe they will have a successful season. They're built for success. They're in the same division as the Browns and the Bengals. That's foundation for
And the
success.
Steelers.
I wasn't gonna go there. I'm not.
I will.
I think y'all letting the biggest culprit of this whole situation off the hook.
Jim Harbaugh.
Got to start talking about Coach Harbaugh. This is the second big game where it seems that the coaching and the game plan come out totally off, and it throws the team completely off, and they takes to the middle of the third quarter for them to start to feel like something is working right. Happened in the playoffs, second time. I know the J3, the players on the field, but if the coaches are calling bad plays and coaching scared, that's going to cause you to lose games when you play in the elite.
That's obvious. That's truly obvious. I would totally agree. However, at some point, when you on that field, you got to bring it out of you so that you can perform better than what they're actually calling the plays.
Agreed.
And make something happen.
Agreed.
If you trying to win a game, that's all I'm saying.
Yep.
But see, in the NFL, where the talent is so even when with the hapless Browns and Bengals, in the NFL, the talent is so even that coaching actually matters in the NFL. You know, and John Harbaugh, I think I said Jim earlier. John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, and Mike Tomlin, I put in that category of coaches that if they have the horses, if they have the better players, they usually they're gonna be successful more times than not. But when it comes to when they come up against other great coaches or a coach that's more technically sound than they are, that's when they tend to struggle. And you can look at the records and when they go up against big time players, big time coaches, this is what happens. They seemingly look like they're overmatched when in reality, like you said, Big Reg, more times than not, it's the game plan. I mean, look at Baltimore. They come out the gate, they run the ball all the way down the field, they kick a field goal. Yes, they stall, but they kick a field goal, and they seemingly abandon the run. It's like this is how we're built to run. And you look at the stat sheet, and they weren't up until the third quarter, late third. They was technically still in the game. It wasn't really like they had to completely abandon their makeup, their DNA. So you're right, coaching.
Yeah. But again, that defense just couldn't hold up. They couldn't hold up at all.
And we got to give respect to the Kansas City Chiefs. Pat Mahomes is a bad man.
That's reserved for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but you can't call him Pat. I don't want. I do, and I don't want his mama calling in because she don't like him calling him Pat.
I'm sorry, Patrick is a bad man. I'm sorry, I don't want her texting us.
Pete Holmes, call him Pete Mahomes.
Moving on to the next big game, the Sunday night game. We had the Green Bay Packers going against the New Orleans Saints.
Man, I should leave now.
It was a great matchup.
In theory.
And I got to give your boy, Drew Brees, a little props. He didn't have a big game, but he wasn't the reason for that loss.
Thank you.
That's true.
You know real sports because I've heard too many people talking about old man this, old man that, and I'm like, did y'all watch the same game, or were you just waiting for them to lose to pin this whole thing on Drew Brees? He had a decent game, And again, they have some injuries on their offensive line that they just won't be able to overcome because Drew had to kind of dink and dunk a lot. Kamara made a heck of a play. I know you like that, J3.
Yes, sir.
But they were missing Michael Thomas. They couldn't really stretch that secondary like they normally would. And Drew just took too many serious hits in clutch times on real long third downs and stuff. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is that dude. He's that bad man, and their defense played in key parts to get them that victory. So, I give it up to him.
Talking about a easy division, looks like the Green Bay Packers are going to have a cakewalk through that division.
Isn't that crazy? I don't know. St. Nick did his thing, though. I don't know. Chicago, they 3-0, right?
I'll give you
Okay.
a break. Are you
All right.
serious?
Hey, did you
think
see
it's
St.
a-
Nick
I think
play?
it's a real change.
Did you see him play? They
Chicago.
were dead in the water with
We gonna get to
Trubisky.
them. We gonna get to
All
them.
right,
We gonna
now
get to
Joe
them.
starting stuff.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Man, defense is killing me.
Hey, I'm not here to come down on Drew Brees. That's not my job. But don't say that Michael Thomas's absence is the reason he can't go downfield. Michael Thomas is not a deep threat.
We didn't say he couldn't go downfield. He hit Sanders a couple of times.
I mean, for the last 5 years, you can check the stats on Drew Brees. He's never averaged more than 7 yards to throw downfield for the last 5
That's
years.
the offense. That's the offense.
I thought you weren't going to bash Drew, Ed.
I'm not bashing him, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Drew Brees,
Right. So your criticism has to include Sean Payton then, because he calls the offense.
No, but but Sean Payton is a great coach because Sean Payton understands the limitations of the people that he has at his.
So then make sure you use the word great when you talk about Drew Brees as well. He didn't get all those records because he was a scrub, Ed.
Drew
And he
Brees
does throw the ball downfield.
Drew
If you
Brees
watch
had
all his years he's played ball. He's gotten the ball downfield. Come on,
Drew
now.
Brees.
He's telling lies.
Yes, but not in the last 5 years. Drew Brees has had a great career, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a great person for the city of the city of New Orleans. But let's be honest, Drew Brees, his time is done. He needs to move on to that NBC booth job that Chris Collinsworth has right now. Drew Brees needs to go ahead and put his slippers on.
How he's done when he plays better than a majority of the NFL quarterbacks. So how is he done? I'm kind of lost with that.
He
How
has
is
a better.
done?
He has
You
a
seen
better.
Sam Darnold lately.
He has a better organization. You can't compare the Jets organization to the Saints organization. He has better players.
Comparing quarterback play.
He has a better support system. He has better players around him. You can't compare Sam Darnold to Drew Brees. That's like apples and oranges.
Yeah, well, you missed my whole point that I was trying to make. The point is that you have a quarterback, regardless of what organization that he's in. These are things that a quarterback has to do. Put another quarterback in his situation. What are you saying? You guaranteeing that another quarterback, say, James
Teddy
Winston,
Bridgewater.
is going to up?
When he got hurt last year, Teddy Bridgewater stepped into that position, and you didn't even notice it. It was like no drop off. And how many times?
All right. That's enough Drew Brees bashing.
But he came back and they still won, right? Oh, okay.
Until the playoffs.
To the next one. You ready to move on? Let's move on to another bad man, Mr. Dangerous, Russell Wilson, who's continuing to cook this year.
Yeah, he in a good system too.
Setting the NFL record with his 14th passing TD in his first three games.
Yes.
It also didn't hurt that doing all that was against the Cowboys.
Yes.
Giving the Cowboys their second defeat, 38-31.
Yes.
So Russell Wilson is doing his thing. Right now, he's my early MVP. And thank goodness Tyler Lockett finally got on track this week. But neither of those teams play any defense. They look like a Big 12 team.
Yeah. Which we'll get to.
So, anything that anybody want to say about the Seahawks Cowboys game, or are we ready to move on?
Sweet victory. Sweet victory. Keep it moving.
Yeah, I don't need to talk about them.
I'll say something as the person who went to Alabama in the room. Trevon Diggs might be in trouble as the weeks go on, because he was in everybody's mouth, and there were quite a few missed tackles. Really, not just missed tackles, just missed coverage. He can't keep up with the wide receiver, and that's not great. I didn't appreciate it when he was at Alabama, and I don't know how long Cowboys fans will appreciate it either.
But he did make the big play. I mean, after he got burnt for that deep touchdown by DK Metcalf, he didn't stop running and punched it out and knocked it through the end zone to keep it from going.
Which was, I mean, honestly, it was DK Metcalf's fault. Like, that wasn't a wonderful play by Trevon Diggs. All he had to do was keep running. I mean, that's what he's paid to do, is to run. He should have kept running. But that's all we'll say. Congratulations to Russell.
The other surprise in the MVP race is Josh Allen.
Man, I told man.
Josh Allen has led the Buffalo Bills to 3-0.
That's my
And he's
quarterback.
doing it with his arm and not his legs.
Yeah.
That's my quarterback.
Allen has over 30,000 yards, 10 passing TDs, only one INT, with 2 TDs rushing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead, give it up.
I gotta say, I didn't think he would ever be able to beat people from the pocket with his arm, based on his college career and the way he looked the first 2 years.
Mhm.
But of all the quarterbacks that came out in that draft class,
Right.
with the exception of the bad man up in purple up in Baltimore, I think he's the best one out of the group.
Yeah. I saw the maturity in him, and that's why in my fantasy league I drafted him. But just in real talk, I was saying how, yes, they would be playing some poo-poo defenses the first couple of weeks, but y'all saw how he played against Aaron Donald and them boys with the Rams. You know, how he torched Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he reads a defense like a developing quarterback should. He's now in his third or fourth year.
Yeah.
And that is how you turn the corner. And everybody was talking about how Buffalo's defense was going to carry them and all of that. I said, man, Josh Allen is going to have a breakout season, because when they pulled in Stephon Diggs, he had him a bona fide weapon to be able to go down the field.
Very
So
true.
I love it.
Stephon is a special player for sure.
Yeah.
Good person for a quarterback to throw to.
Yeah, Stephon is definitely doing this thing. And I think even though Minnesota has a rookie out of LSU that had a big game this
Jefferson.
week,
Yeah, Jefferson.
they still missing Stephon. But you mentioned that bad man, Mr. Aaron Donald. Did you see that play where he where he grabbed your boy Josh Allen and threw him down like he was a rag doll?
Yeah.
He just assumed, because it was so powerful, that he had to grab his face mask or something.
Yeah.
He looked at the referee, was like, "Where the flag? Where the flag?" It's like he grabbed you by the shoulder.
Yeah, that was Aaron Donald. He said, I had enough.
Well, I'm not surprised with Josh Allen's ascending to one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, because what is shown is that he's taken coaching really well. He has his offseason, he worked really hard with Jordan Palmer, the quarterback guru, failed quarterback in NFL himself. And then also he has the benefit of working with one of the rare Belichick disciples, coach, offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, who went to Alabama for 1 year, won a national title, and then fled to Buffalo to become their offensive coordinator. So I'm not surprised. Daboll is really good with what he does, and obviously Jordan Palmer has worked miracles as far as his accuracy is concerned, because he always had the physical talent. It was all about his accuracy. So he went from like a 59% quarterback completion rate, which is actually which Donovan McNabb had for his career, but that's a different story. And then Dayball turned him into what he's now a 70%, over 70% completion. So yeah, and then Diggs, of course, obviously helped him. He has legitimate receivers now, a core of 3. Which includes John Brown and also Cole Beasley, former Cowboy. So I picked them 12-4 before the season started. I'm not backing off that. Actually, I should add another game. I didn't know the Jets were going to be as bad as well.
You funny, Ed. You funny.
You talking about that L they're gonna take from the Steelers? Is that what
Well, since we're talking about the Bills, we might as well, go right up the road or across the road to talk about the AFC East compatriots.
Oh, wow.
Cam.
Okay.
That's right.
Cam is playing the best football I think he's played since an MVP year, and he's doing it by any means necessary. He doesn't care if he's the focal point of the game plan. Cam just trying to prove that he's a leader. He wants to win, and he'll do anything that needs to be done to get the job done. Because what the Patriots did to the Raiders, who just come off a pretty good, impressive victory against the Saints, I didn't think the Patriots were going to be this good this year. We talked about this multiple times. 8 players opt out. They lost 5 players on the defense without the opt-outs. But Belichick is a bad man, and Cam has proven everybody that he's back. So the Bills are in the lead in the East, but I got to wait to see them play New England twice before I give them the East.
Well, first of all, you didn't think that Cam was going to go up there and just lay down, did you? I mean, he had definitely had something to prove. And when he was playing with the Carolina Panthers, it really wasn't his fault that they were losing.
Sure.
I mean, he was performing. Remember, he did get an MVP. So don't act like he don't have the skill set to be a leader or to run an offense, because he definitely has it in him.
Okay.
But I think all the questions surrounding Cam had to do with his health. But if you think about it, he had 2 years really to recover from various shoulder and foot injuries. So I think we all knew Cam could play, and we knew he was going to be in a great situation. Belichick being probably the greatest coach ever to coach football. But I think it was all his health. I think that's what we all wondered about. How is he going to hold up?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we also worry about, to Big Reg's point, he likes being a star. I think that's why he did really well in Carolina. It was very clear. And so I think it was an adjustment to the Patriots, but I think that he has really come into his own about understanding that this is a team. I think Belichick is going to make that very clear no matter who he's coaching. And so he will do better in a system where he's a leader for sure, but it's a team effort. And I think that he seems to be enjoying himself. And the only concern now is, does he stay healthy? And if they stop winning, then, does he kind of deteriorate as he's done before?
Yeah, J3 and Ed, you guys already spoke on it a little bit. If you rewind back, 4 or 5 months, what were we saying about Cam Newton when nobody had picked him up yet? We were saying that he looks fully healthy, and for the league to really not take a chance on him when you had several teams that needed a starting quarterback, we said, number one, he's not going anywhere to be anybody's backup because he's fully healthy and he's ready to go. So when the Patriots picked him up, all of us was like, it's about to be on. And even though most of us picked, the Patriots to be like 10-6, they were going to compete with Buffalo for the division. And as long as you got a New England team into the postseason, anything could happen. But he has just transcended many expectations. A lot of people see that he's healthy. They see his cannon arm is back. They see him moving out of that pocket. He's doing everything that he needs to. One thing we know about New England, and Tom Brady can tell you this, they're going to put together a solid offensive line to protect their quarterback. So Cam is in heaven right now. I don't know what he's going to do next year, but right now he can compete. Oh, and don't forget, they were Wagner tackle away from even beating Dangerous in that team and being 3-0.
Yeah, on the goal line.
Speaking of people who know about the New England way, and we're not going to stay on this long, Tampa Bay and Brady look better and better each week. I think Tom's finally getting used to having weapons everywhere and how to use them. And I also think the coaching staff is figuring out what Tom does best and adjusting their offense and actually melding the two together. So look out for Tampa Bay. Let's talk about the most outrageous
Oh my goodness.
game of the week.
Oh Lord have mercy. Here we go again. Go ahead.
They did it again.
Again. I don't understand it. I just don't understand. How does this dude still have a daggone job?
I don't know, man.
Please help me
I
out.
don't know. I was
Tell
like,
me.
they doing it, and then I was like,
It's unbelievable.
You lose 2 20-point leads back-to-back weeks. Yeah, I don't understand how Dan Quinn still has a job either.
You guys understand how he still has a job. Stop playing over there in that studio. Y'all been playing games. We look, he's a defensive guru. Let's leave it at that.
oh,
Is he?
Is he?
Is he?
It don't show.
I can't
He's a
tell.
first half defensive guru. I don't know what
Yeah,
more people
first
don't
half.
exactly. There's knowledge and skill.
You play to win the game.
Wow. I think he may be another example of a coach who was promoted one step beyond his actual capabilities. Because I was watching some show this week. I believe it was ESPN, but they pointed out that that team has not been the same since a coach left that was the offensive coordinator and became head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, he was a part of that Super Bowl.
Kyle. You talking about Kyle?
Kyle was a part of that Super Bowl blunder twice now. But at least he gets teams to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They
Right.
haven't been to the playoffs since they lost that Super Bowl.
Okay, I can understand that if they weren't
Very similar
producing
fashion.
points, but they're scoring. So the offense is not the
Oh,
problem.
it's humming.
They're scoring,
In
but
the
they're
first
not
half.
in the first half, and they're not scoring enough to sustain. If they know that they have a first half defense, they need their offense to show up enough so that they can sustain it. And yes, great, 20-point leads. That's not enough. They need to be scoring more than 50 points.
Wait a minute.
You just made the case for him to be fired. He's supposed to be a defensive coach, and he can't get them to play defense. He's out.
Oh my God.
There's one of
That's
two
great.
options.
That's great. That's great.
The other part of that was the final benching of your boy Mitchell Trubisky. The coach was looking for a reason to get him out of there.
To the left, to the left.
The team was 2-0. He threw one interception, almost fumbled the ball. Second half, he was out of there.
Said Nick.
Now you got your boy, Mr. Statue in front of Philadelphia, Nick Foles in the building as a new starting quarterback who tossed 3 fourth quarter touchdowns to win the game.
Too. Oh man.
So we will see what Chicago becomes in the future. And just some highlights, and then we'll get off this NFL. Hats off to the Steelers. 28-21 victory over the Texans. Your boy Big Ben is still looking good, Ed. That defense is ridiculous. And I send my condolences again and say sorry to my man Deshaun Watson. I'm
Right.
sorry, bro. I'm sorry, bro.
Well,
All money ain't good money.
yeah. And the Steelers proved that 2 watts is better than 1.
There you go.
Obviously.
There you go.
Obviously.
Look, JJ gonna want to come over there too. Like, come get me.
In a interesting game, even though it was against 2 0-3 teams, 2 0-2 teams, the Titans beat the Vikings 31-30. All I can say about that is 2 people got off. Dalvin Cook was killing them 22 for 181 in the TD. And the rookie Justin Jefferson, 7 catches for 175 in the TD, did their thing for the Vikings, and they still couldn't win. So I'm sorry, your boy Cousins, he got problems. He also threw 2 more picks and had a fumble. So hats off to the Titans, 3-0. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but they keep getting it done.
They grinding late. That's how they doing it. They pulling them out at the end, and their kicker done righted the ship. Who would have thought it? We all wanted him fired, but he got that hip together, didn't he? Real quick.
And in rapid fire, Browns beat the Washington football team.
Here we go.
Haskins, you better improve your game or you'll be benched soon.
Man, he need an offensive line. I keep telling
He
y'all,
sure
he needs
does.
some help,
He
man.
sure does.
He needs help.
Kyler Murray had his first bad game of the season. They actually gave the Lions their first victory of the year.
Detroit.
And Matt, we trust.
There are 2 teams in New York. The question is, which one will go 0-16 and which one will go 1-15? And we'll just keep it moving.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's a rough question right there.
Wow.
Don't put your paycheck on it.
Wow.
And last but not least, somebody needs to give Carson Wentz some mental health help because his struggles is all in his head.
He brought him back though.
Come on, man. They tried to beat.
I know, but look how he fought to even get them at that point.
That's real cute. They got a tie.
So week 4 matchups to look at: Colts and Bears, Browns at the Cowboys, Steelers at the Titans,
That's gonna be.
Bills at Raiders,
That's gonna be.
and the big game of the week, Patriots at the
I
Chiefs.
can't wait.
Let's talk to the next level of football. College football returned almost fully last week.
For a
The
minute.
important people.
Oh.
Hey, go. Nah, Ed.
So that means the SEC return for y'all that don't get it. So Ed, what you think of what happened in the first week of the SEC? Why don't you give us a couple of highlights?
The highlight was Mike Leach unleashing his air raid system on the SEC, serving notice that he has arrived and he's not going to be the whipping boy of Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss and Georgia moving forward. It's long been speculated that his type of offense, which, by the way, is the Big 12, their style of offense, where you pay little attention to defense with the hopes of wearing down the other opposing defense because they just get tired of being on the field and having to cover and rush the quarterback. But Mike Leach and his Stanford transfer quarterback, KJ Costello, put up, they beat defending national champion at LSU by the score of 44-34. Now, yeah, LSU is down 17 players from their championship, 17 starters from their championship team last year. But still, it's Mississippi State versus LSU at LSU. Let's understand, many people believe their second and third stringers at LSU is better than the first stringers at Mississippi State. Well, 623 air yards later.
Woo!
I watched that game too.
An SEC record, by the way, and Mike Leach walked out of Baton Rouge with a win. Also, we had the Big 12, the no defense league. Oklahoma And their star redshirt freshman quarterback, Spencer Rattler, who threw 3 picks, lost to Kansas State team who was down severely limited as far as their players is concerned because of their COVID-19 protocols back in Manhattan, Kansas. They lost 2 21-point leads, Oklahoma did, in Norman, finally succumbing 38-35 to Kansas State team, who the previous week had lost a subdivision Arkansas State. Yes, you got that right. Arkansas State. Also, Texas showed that they don't want to play defense either. They barely squeaked out a victory against Texas Tech in Lubbock. It was an away game for Texas. 63, I think 63-56 was the final score.
They had
63.
1,200 yards of offense combined.
Wow.
1,200
No, that's
yards.
like a basketball score.
Wow.
Man. That's a basketball score.
That's why to date we only have one confirmed great NFL quarterback from that league, and one is to be determined with Kyler Murray coming up. I don't count Jalen Hurts as a Big 12 quarterback. He learned how to play football in Alabama.
Yeah, what did you say about that, Big Reg? What they do? They leased them for
They
you.
leased them for
In the ACC, we have a couple issues. The first thing is congratulations to Miami. Whether they're back or not, we won't know it for another 2 weeks when they visit Death Valley, Clemson. But D'Eriq King, the transfer quarterback out of the University of Houston, is putting on a show, for, ladies and gentlemen. He's absolutely resurrected or transformed Miami's offense and thus program. And D'Eriq King, if you have a chance, and D'Eriq King, if you have an opportunity to do a little research on him, he's the quarterback. If you remember last year, first-year head coach Dana Holgorsen asked him to redshirt because after the third or fourth game, because he was in his first year, he felt that he didn't have the horses to compete, and he wanted to save, and I put that in quotation marks, save D'Eriq King for this year when he was ready to, in his mind, compete. Well, if you remember, when D'Eriq King made the decision to not transfer, but to redshirt, initially it was believed because he wanted to leave, and all the media out there was that he had made this decision. But behind the scenes, the coach of Houston, Holgorsen, actually encouraged this man to redshirt. And then when the firestorm started occurring, that's only then did he come and say, no, it was part of my plan. So anyway, D'Eriq King ends up at Miami, and I guess the rest is history. But D'Eriq King is working. He recently lost his father unexpectedly to a heart attack at age 48, and his mother also came down with cancer within the last 11 months. So he's been dealing with some issues, but it's good to see him working out in Miami. And finally, the Golden Domers have a problem, a COVID-19 problem. As of yesterday, they had 18 more positive tests as far as COVID-19. This adds on to the fact that they had 7 the previous week, which caused the cancellation of a game against Wake Forest. They're currently on a bye this week, and they're scheduled to play next week. But what's going on, fellas? What's going on in Notre Dame where we having all these positive tests and cancellations of games, or postponements of games, which, because they're in the ACC for this year only as far as a football schedule, the ACC has made it perfectly clear that if they don't have 8 teams available to play on any given Saturday, they're shutting it down. Now, we both know that. We all know that that's a lie because also this last week, every major Power 5 conference have made a return and announced some sort of schedule in spite of this being a pandemic. So, yeah, what's going on, fellas, with Notre Dame? And why are these colleges insisting on playing through this pandemic?
You know why they playing?
Yeah.
They're trying to get paid.
Yep.
And let me say this, Ed, and I can't defend them one iota, But just because, and this is for all you all that don't know what South Bend, Indiana looks like, it might be out there in the middle of the cornstalks, but this is a college town. And if you think for 1 minute that these players aren't fraternizing with other students and everybody around town and on campus, you got to think again. Brian Kelly, and I was going to get into this later, he is making excuses for not having oversight over his players and what they're doing. Because there's no way that if they really sequestered their teams the way that they're supposed to be doing, that you're blaming a vomiting player on the sidelines and eating a meal together as a team for why you have this widespread outbreak on your campus. If other teams are showing the mettle that they can do it and keep their players safe, then what's going on here? It's starting to look a little bit like what went on at LSU.
COVID is coming back across the nation. It has been statistically proven that college campuses have been a huge petri dish for the advancement of COVID. And now we're finally starting to see major teams be affected by that. And also, we missed in the NFL, there was a huge announcement in the NFL today of a COVID outbreak that made the NFL shut down two teams. It was the
Titans and the Vikings.
Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings. And the Titans had 8 positive confirmed tests, not just the quick tests. They confirmed those tests. And so I think we're going to see this throughout college and the NFL, because the way COVID is expanding again, it's getting cold, people getting inside. We all said it before the season started that we didn't think they'd be able to play football at all. Now they're playing football. It's just who's going to have the stomach to keep pushing through no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's definitely the question. It's certainly going to continue to be a problem. Again, you brought up LSU. If people are properly testing, it will be a problem that will come up throughout the season. And it'll be a question of whether people are going to play or not, regardless. And then unfortunately, I mean, again, yes, it's a money question and it's a political question, because some people decide to involve themselves in encouraging conferences to come back. But it's also a player question of these players who stand up and say, I want to play regardless. And all of those things give them conferences excuse after excuse to go ahead and keep playing.
So will the national champion be one of attrition more than skills on the field?
I think that's going to be the way in the NFL and NCAA football.
To an extent, I also think it'll be a measure of, as is everything in this country, a measure of economic wealth and just the ability to put the money behind each team and actually test everyone and even get them the care that they need if someone does, get COVID. So not everyone has that.
Why don't you elaborate? What's your example of that?
Well, Alabama, $75 million to test not just the football players, but all of their athletes every single day. But not every, and again, the teams, these Power 5 conferences that we're talking about, they all have the money. It's a choice of whether or not to spend it.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's our college football wrap up for the week.
I have one more point I would like to
Gina,
make about. No, that's okay. about Mississippi State. While we're talking about the SEC, we have a question. Like that game presented one question: is the LSU defense that bad, or is the Mississippi State offense that good? And quite frankly, Alabama might be in trouble because they have 5 weeks to figure that out. And Mississippi State has a bye before their game against Alabama. Mississippi State doesn't play anyone in the next 3 weeks before that. So their offense might look stronger and stronger because they're not really playing anybody. And, LSU's defense will show itself. But the SEC, I wonder if the SEC overall will not be supported by a possible upsurging and rise in Mississippi State because they're not very well known. They're not very well liked like the LSU and the Alabamas are. So if they go and they start beating big teams like LSU and Alabama consistently, then you might say, oh, well, the SEC must not be that good. And then you only get one team in the playoffs. But
I don't know, because Nick Saban is the college football's version of Bill Belichick. I think that he'll at least have his boys ready to play. I can't speak.
he'll certainly do everything he can to
Yeah, I just better hope COVID don't hit him.
Yeah, the one thing Nick has struggled with are teams that play ultra high pace, throw the ball all over the field type of offense. It will take his defensive line to really get going and put a hurt on the Mississippi State's quarterback, which they've done. They've knocked out a few quarterbacks in the past,
Right.
but I can't wait to see that. That's going to be very interesting. I appreciate that. Was some insightful insight from you. Actually saying Alabama may be in trouble. I know that hurt. Moving on to combat sports.
Yes.
Dana White and the UFC have returned to Fight Island
That's
in
right.
Abu Dhabi.
The man.
Once again, it's on.
That's right.
For the next 4 weeks, Dana will be putting on 5 fight cards
That's
in
right.
Abu Dhabi. And he started with UFC 253, which had my man, Israel Adesanya, the last style bender,
Mhm.
who put on a masterpiece
Yes, he did.
and beat formerly undefeated Paul Costa with a second round TKO.
Yes. Technician.
Yeah, fueled by my fear that he was going to break his leg. It wasn't going to be a knockout. It was going to be a broken leg for sure.
He tried.
Yeah,
He sure tried. He, as G said, Israel chopped down that front leg of Costa till he couldn't stand on it anymore. And once he started favoring that leg, he went up, kicked him in the head a couple of times, unleashed a few punches, fight over.
Yeah, once that knee connected, he was done.
In the co-main event, the battle for John Jones's vacant light heavyweight
Mhm.
title,
All that trash. Mhm.
the favorite Dominic Reyes, who
Mhm.
talked a whole bunch of stuff,
Mhm.
he was outworked, out-schemed, and punished
Yeah.
by what they call in the Polish power, Jan Blachowicz.
Mhm.
Did you see his ribs?
Yeah. Tore him up. It was that one kick, and all you saw was this big old bruise right there.
If he didn't break his ribs, he severely bruised his ribs. And he didn't kick him there once. He
Right.
kicked him there about 10 times.
Yeah.
Similar to what Israel did with the knee.
Mm-hmm.
After he broke up them ribs, it was, fight over, time to go home, second round TKO. But what was most interesting to me was Jan, after the fight, called out your boy, John Jones, and said,
"Yeah, where you
live
at?
up to your
Yeah.
word.
Where
You
at?"
said you was going to fight me for the title. Now I've got the belt. Come do it. So
Yeah.
He don't want none of that smoke.
Actually, you gonna take some of that smoke. Yeah, thank you. It's money. Yeah, it's money. That's right.
and Adesanya called out his entire weight class for not meeting the weight.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
He did. And Dana White. He
Yeah.
called him out
Yeah.
too. He want that money. Like, you making that money.
Change.
Yeah.
what was funny about that wasn't about his fight.
Mhm.
He had 3
Yeah,
teammates
his
on that
teammates,
card,
yeah.
and 2 of his teammates had fighters miss weight.
Yeah.
One missed weight by 6 pounds,
Mhm.
and another one missed weight by 3 pounds. And he said he saw them in the locker room afterwards because once you miss weight, they give you like I think it's 6 hours
Mhm.
to try to make weight.
Right.
He said these dudes, he saw them in the locker room drinking juice, eating fruit when they supposed to.
I'm not saying.
So he's like, they got to change that. And instead of them guys losing 30%, and in this a pay-per-view matchup, this was the biggest paychecks they were ever seen.
Yeah.
So 30%, they still make more than they've ever made. He's like, they need to, find them 70, 80% of their purse. Then people will come in and make weight.
That's
So
right. That's right. Same thing they do in major sports. You don't make that weight.
in the other combat sports, boxing, it was a late night Saturday, but the Charlo twins pulled off their debut pay-per-view with their split card pay-per-view. Big brother Jamal Charlo fought in the first 3-card match. He defended his WBC middleweight title against his toughest competition, as they say, at middleweight, and just abused the guy. The only thing he couldn't do was knock the guy out. Retaining his belt and hopefully setting up the big money fight that he's been calling for, Triple G or Canelo Alvarez. Problem with both of them is, can they get the cross promotions to work out?
That's always the issue with boxing.
Yeah.
Money.
Baby brother by 5 minutes, Jamel Charlo was even more impressive than Big Brother. Jamalo beat Jason Rosario, who was a fellow super welterweight champion. For over a minute after the fight. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he had already knocked him down 2 times previous with left hooks and right hooks, but he hit him with a body shot, and the man could not catch his breath. They actually ended up sending Rosario to the hospital because they were concerned that he had maybe a punctured lung or something like that. So, who's next? The Charlo boys have cleared out all of the no-name contenders. They've beaten all the name contenders that are willing to fight them. So I don't know what they're going to do. ESPN also had a card with Josh Taylor defending his junior welterweight titles with a first-round knockout, trying to set up a huge unification battle with Jose Ramirez. Unifying. The news of the week, your boy Terrence Crawford is in negotiations to fight Kell Brook on November 14th because none of the PBC guys will fight him. Your boy Manny Pacquiao doesn't want to fight any of the young lions, so he's currently in negotiations with Conor McGregor to put on a big pay-per-view. And Canelo Alvarez has filed lawsuits against DAZN, Golden Boy Promotions, and Oscar De La Hoya for breach of contract for tens of millions of dollars.
You ain't gonna see it.
So boxing's back, but it's the same old boxing. It's a mess. As you said, Ed,
Corruption.
PBC will not fight Top Rank. Top Rank won't fight the fighters on DAZN. So we don't get the fights that we really want to see.
And that's why people are drawn to MMA, the UFC.
There you go.
That's exactly right. I mean, I've criticized Dana White, on this show multiple times, but one thing I can't criticize him, he will get the fights that people want to see.
Yeah.
And until boxing has that one figurehead that can do it, which will never happen because there's too much money involved behind the scenes. The fans like us are just going to continuously be frustrated.
Yeah. I hear you. All right, it's time for our post takes. We ready for you, Professor J?
All right. So let's hit this fast and furious. All right, good evening, everyone. Once again, let's start out with Major League Baseball. Jose Abreu, first baseman for the Chicago White Sox. He is the front runner for the American League MVP. Check these stats out. He had 60 RBI, 19 home runs, a 317 batting average. The White Sox and the Athletics squared off today for the first time ever in the postseason. This is a best of 3 wild card series. College football, and we talked about this earlier. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Did Brian Kelly, head coach of Notre Dame, really blame a recent outbreak of COVID on a team meal and a player vomiting on the sidelines of the South Florida game? He really believes that having dinner in a giant ballroom is supposed to prevent COVID outbreaks? Hello, coach. Your players play a contact sport. Where you eat is the least of your concerns. 39 players affected and still 18 have tested positive this week. Those rapid tests you ordered cannot save your team. Dabo, I still do not like your team, mainly because of Deion Johnson. But I appreciate you supporting your Clemson football players and standing up for what is right and standing against injustice. Where I have to give you a bit of advice is on his stance as a traditionalist. Sir, if you have not understood this nugget of wisdom, let me reiterate. Traditions are made to be broken, especially when they stand in the face of positive change, and those traditions represent an old guard or antiquated way of thinking. Just like you danced in front of your players to break the monotony, loosen up your collar and let your players display messages on their uniforms. Everyone is debating what went wrong with Doc Rivers and the Clippers. The general manager, Michael Winger, went wrong. I know that people will blame Paul George and some will go to Kawhi Leonard, but none of them were responsible for ultimately pulling the trigger. There is a bunch of blame to go around, but none of them should escape being choke artists with so much on the line. Hey, Doc, we can take you in DC. Don't just listen or don't just like when things are taken from Dallas. Oh, I just love it so much, let me tell you, especially when it's in a dramatic fashion. I'm talking about in any sport. Kudos to Tampa Bay Lightning and Conn Smythe Trophy MVP Victor Hedman. They stood atop the NHL, and Hedman said it was a grind, but they will forever be written in history as Stanley Cup champions. New York, New York. What is wrong with your teams? Right now, let's pick the J-E-T, Jets. And I use that term pick very loosely because Sam Darnold is a pick master. With this dysfunction there, how does Adam Gase maintain his job? Even more puzzling is the fact that Jets players underwhelmingly still support this dude. I think along with their COVID testing, they need psych evaluations as well. Black Monday should have already happened for Mr. Jason Voorhees' eyes. Washington football team news. Coach Rivera is sticking with Dwayne Haskins at QB. I'm quite sure in the back of Haskins' mind, he would welcome a benching. Did you see what just happened to the Ravens? They're going to be extremely upset and will need to get a get-right game. With the Washington Football League line in turmoil, we better start praying now that Haskins does not get hurt. Where are my Gamecocks fans? Some say it is way too early, but try telling Dawn Staley that her ladies do not deserve the #1 ranking in all of women's college basketball. They are poised to take on the likes of the Cardinal, Bears, and Huskies. I cannot wait until tournament time. Fingers crossed. Do we need to call foul? World champ and F1 racing legend Lewis Hamilton was dinged with 2 time penalties. Yes, sir. For 2 pre-race practice starts outside the designated zone at the Russian Grand Prix. This denied him a victory. His initial reaction was that it was ridiculous and felt that the FIA governing body was trying to stop him from winning. He went on to say that he bets that no one has ever been given 2 5-second penalties in one race before concerning this type of violation. Russia, huh?
Hidden racism.
Yes, sir. MMA is calling for it. UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya is being considered pound for pound the best in the sport. ESPN shout out has him ranked #4 before this bout. He is behind Khabib. Oh my God, Nurmagomedov, John Jones, thank you, Red, for the assist, and Stipe Miocic. Do you agree? He punished wannabe Rocky legend Paulo Costa with a second round TKO at UFC 253 on Fight Island. we will see where he goes from there. And those are our post takes this evening.
Good stuff.
Stuff.
Just a couple of quick things before we get out here. A couple things that caught our eye. For you tennis fans out there, the French Open began Sunday. I know it's unusual, but the French Open is being played this year in Paris. While a bunch of top players have decided to skip this tournament, you still have the King of Clay, Rafael Nadal, who returns to the draw and easily won his first round match. And we've got the Queen of Tennis, Serena Williams, despite having an Achilles injury in the U.S. Open, is competing and won her first round match. And Coco is out there. She won her first round match. So especially if you wake up early in the morning, you can catch tennis at 5 a.m. in the morning till noon, Monday through every day of the week.
Yeah.
So enjoy some tennis. MLB started their Major League playoffs today. They have set up a quad site bubble situation, and we didn't think they would get there, but it looks like the MLB will crown a champion this year.
Mm-hmm.
Game 5 of the WNBA is actually going on right now with the Connecticut Sun leading the Las Vegas Aces at halftime. The winner will go on to face the Seattle Storm, who swept the Minnesota Lynx for the WNBA Finals. We already had congrats again to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup 4-2. And last but not least, we got to get a shout out to Kurt Busch, who after 22 starts finally got his first victory in Vegas in NASCAR and qualifies for the next round of the playoffs, which is currently being led by Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. So for you race fans, we didn't forget about you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our final post of the evening. So why don't we let the guests go first? What you got for us, G?
Oh, sure. Well, sports-wise, something I'm looking forward to will be the Auburn-Georgia game on Saturday evening. And it'll be a good test of which side of the best conference in college football is better. I think we all would agree it's the SEC West, but this will be a good test. Also, in general life news, looking forward to the debate tonight and everyone being engaged politically.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. What you got for us, J3?
So I just want to give a quick shout out to young cousin Jared Garner, who got his first start with Duke University as a wide receiver. A couple yards game, so I definitely want to give him a shout out. And then I also want to send out my prayers to the Breonna Taylor family. They got a bum deal, and hopefully it's not over. And they're gonna keep fighting to get something overturned.
Big Ed, what you got for us?
I just want to wish everybody continued health and success. And on a personal note, I just want to thank my co-host that I'm looking at right now from afar. I appreciate you guys and young lady more than you guys will ever know.
Thank you, man.
Back at you, brother. Back at you, brother. Professor.
Well, certainly sports-wise, and with Major League Baseball being in their bubble, but certainly moving forward to crown a champion. No nationals, so I got to go for the Bronx Bombers to take it all. And then on a more serious note, a political note, I got my ballot in the mail today. Yes. Look, this process, more than any, is realer than you can imagine. So all of you out there who are of age, I implore you, get your ballot. If you're going in person, stand in those lines, be safe, wear your mask, be socially distanced, but you have to vote. There's no way around it. We need to take the country back in the direction that President Obama had it going.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And to add on to that, remember, it's not a voting day, November 3rd. It has been declared this is voting season. You got early voting going on in a lot of states across this country. You got your mail-in vote. Don't wait till November 3rd.
Right.
Get it in early so that you can make sure your vote is counted and that you don't have any worries and concerns. And it can be a no question about
Mhm.
who wins this election.
Amen.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
My final post, I'd like to give a shout out to a dear friend, an extended part of our family, Mr. Bryant Johnson.
Mhm.
A lot of you may have seen Bryant on TV this past Friday. Bryant was the personal trainer for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and he was the gentleman who had the very special tribute at the Capitol where he got down and did push-ups for his final goodbye to his friend. So I'd just like to say hats off, Bryant. That was a very cool and classy way for you to say goodbye to your friend. And I know you're not looking for any publicity, but it really touched me, partner.
Yes, sir.
You did a heck of a job. And you also allow people to see a different side of the notorious RBG with your book that you wrote with us. So
Yes.
great job, partner. Great job, partner. All right, that's it. We appreciate y'all tuning in this week. Again, we know you can spend your time doing other things, being other places. So thank you for listening in. Please tune in next Tuesday. We're here every week, 7 p.m. for our next live show. You can also check out the shows via YouTube, Facebook. You can hit us up at Instagram at Positional Sports. If you do go to the Facebook or YouTube pages, please do us a huge favor and like the pages. And for the YouTube page, please subscribe. It's free. It would greatly help us continue to get to where we need to go to. Thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay informed, get involved. If you have time tonight, check out the debates so that you can make the right decision that you need to make in this voting season. This has been a Positional Sports Talk Show. Have a wonderful night. Have a good evening. We appreciate you. Peace.
Shout out Jay Wills. We miss you, brother.
Miss you.